Om Sthapakaya ca dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Sthapakaya ca dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avatar Varishtaya Ramakrishna Te Namah Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Mritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us bow down to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God incarnate. Let us pray to Him to remove all our ignorance, to be able to discriminate properly between what is real and what is not. Let us try to fulfill our life by the grace of the Lord. Supreme peace is attained only by realizing our true self, who is in our own heart, who is the soul of our souls. The purpose of all religions is to realize this profound truth. And today's subject is one of the paths leading towards that supreme goal, the path of meditation. Meditation is a stage in concentration common to all spiritual paths. Whatever religion you follow, meditation is important practice. Each path or spiritual discipline begins in a different way. But every path has a stage which corresponds to meditation. It is some form of meditative awareness. Patanjali's yoga, it also deals with the subject meditation. It begins with the purification of mind, posture and breath control, followed by withdrawal of mind from external objects and fixing the mind at a particular center. When all this is done, then you become qualified to proceed with meditation. So they are all prescribed step by step. Yam, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharan, Dhyan, Samadhi. So 8 limbs. These are the 8 limbs of meditation, yoga. You have to become perfect in each one of the items prescribed here now. Then only your meditation becomes effective and successful. What about Gyana? In the path of Gyana, it begins with hearing the sacred scriptures and reflection on the spiritual ideas expounded by these scriptures. This leads to inquiry. This spirit of inquiry, after deep contemplation on the spiritual idea, is what we call meditation in the path of Gyana. That is, as I said in Patanjali Yoga, Yamaniyam, Asan, etc., 8 limbs. In Gyana Marg, 3 disciplines are there: Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan. Shravan means constantly hearing, reading intently the spiritual texts. So the mind should be properly fed with spiritual ideas, and they should be properly organized in the mind. After getting into these spiritual ideas, you have to think over them over and over again, deeply on these ideas. Deep thinking, cogitation is called Manan. When you become perfect in Shravan and Manan, then it leads you towards the next step, that is called Nididhyasan, that is equivalent to meditation. In the path of bhakti, devotion, also there are 3 principal disciplines: Abhyas, Smaran and Bhavana. Here you have to be very regular in practicing the spiritual devotions. There should not be lapse, no excuse at all. That's the first important qualification required. Then constantly remembering the Divine Lord. In order to help you to remember constantly, you are given a holy sacred mantra, so that you can repeat that mantra of the God and at the same time remember Him constantly. That's the second stage. Smaran, followed by Abhyas, constantly doing, constantly remembering, lifts you up to the stage of Bhavana. That means your whole mind becomes centered around the divine, sacred, holy formula which you had been repeating all the time, constantly, with love and devotion. What about the path of karma? Even in the path of karma, one finds the need to maintain self-awareness in the midst of work. If you are not conscious of this self-awareness, you may end up in becoming erratic, egoistic person. A person who does lot of work becomes very egoistic. Should not be. Well, if you are aware of your spiritual aspiration, then you won't be egoistic. Every now and then, you have to find out yourself to see how far you are able to do the work in that high spirit of detachment and love towards the truth. So, the aspirant begins with large number of thoughts in his mind. These thoughts gradually get reduced, and then he reaches a stage when there exists only a single thought in his mind. Single thought. This is the state of meditative awareness. When you are able to retain yourself thoroughly only in that particular thought, then it is called meditative awareness. It is a highway which every aspirant has to travel in order to realize God, in order to see or experience the Supreme Self, the cosmic self. Beyond this path lies the luminous realm of the Spirit. There are many techniques of meditation. These are all really techniques of dharana. That means how to fix the mind. Whatever technique you follow, you should be able to fix the mind properly. They are like different gates which open to the same highway. These techniques only teach you how to begin meditation. They only open different doors to meditative awareness. So each technique of dharana leads you through meditation to a certain experience. So the beginnings and ends of meditation are different. But the process of meditation itself is the same insofar as a single thought is maintained. The nature of this single thought may also vary from person to person. For example, one person may like to meditate on Lord Shiva. Another one may like to meditate on Sri Ramachandra. The third one may like to meditate on Lord Christ. The fourth one on Lord Krishna. There are a number of divine forms. God can take any number of forms. So, according to the temperament, one takes one particular of God and tries to concentrate on that particular form. Nevertheless, the essential meditative process, the maintenance of a single thought, is the same whatever be the object meditated upon. Now, meditation is of two types. One is subjective meditation, the other one objective meditation. Objective meditation is concentration of mind on an object. There is duality. You are different, and the God whom you are meditating upon is different. You are maintaining the difference between yourself and the deity. Or you may meditate on the qualities like love, compassion, strength, etc. So consciousness is focused on the object by an effort of will. So this objective meditation is generally prescribed for the people to follow, because it's easier to follow this method. This objective meditation is called upasana, whereas the subjective meditation is called nididhyasana, also called atma vichar. Here, in the subjective meditation, there is no focusing of consciousness or effort of will. It is rather an attempt to seek the source of consciousness, to trace one's I back to its roots. Who is this I? Every now and then raises its head. It is a process in which the ego, instead of rushing towards objects as it constantly does, withdraws into its own original source, the Atman. Atman, that is the correct word which we are referring here, which we are to realize through spiritual practices. So, that requires mind should be properly sharpened through training. It should be strengthened by the observance of continence. You must try to save your dissipating energy. Energy is dissipated in so many ways. You become dull and inert on account of the dissipation of energy. So if you have to pursue the spiritual path rigorously, you have to maintain the spiritual vigor, for which continence is absolutely essential. You are not wasting even a single drop of your energy. Everything is used for the right purpose, in the right direction. Upasana or objective meditation gives the mind the necessary training. After practicing upasana for some time, it becomes easier to practice nididhyasana. There's a great Advaitic philosopher, a realized saint, whose name is Madhusudan Saraswati. He has written commentary on Gita also. He has written a book called Advaita Siddhi. There he classifies aspirants for Gyana with two groups. One is called Krutopasti, those who have attained proficiency in upasana. The second one, Akrutopasti, those who go directly to inquiry without practicing upasana. Both are possible. Now, objective meditation It is very common in the objective meditation where the Guru initiates the disciple with a mantra and prescribes upasana for his spiritual practice. The aim of upasana is to establish a living relationship with yourself and God. You have to have that definite relationship with God. The ordinary ego, of which we are also painfully aware, is not eternal but is constantly undergoing change. Only the Atman, our true higher self, is unchanging and eternal. That means, in order to establish a truly loving relationship with God, it is necessary to be aware of one's higher self. You must have that firm belief in the existence of the Supreme Power. Self-inquiry leads the aspirant away from the ego towards his true self. So, by following the practice of upasana, you are able to increase your power of concentration. Nididhyasana enables you to abide in the real abode within and remain calm and unaffected by the environment. Combination of nididhyasana and upasana satisfies both the head and the heart. Concentration can be practiced on any object. In fact, in our daily life, we are concentrating on something or other most of the time. But this kind of concentration is more or less unconscious and is done under the compulsion of desires. I want to become a doctor, so I am fully concentrated in mastering that subject. Whole day, whole night, I spend my time in trying to understand the medical science. The whole mind is concentrated upon that. So this was forced upon you on account of your desire to become a doctor. In the same way, you have to intensely desire to have the realization of God. So true meditation differs from the way people concentrate on things on account of desires. This true meditation involves your conscious following up, involving detachment of the will from the lower desires and its focusing at a higher center of consciousness. Anyway, so many paths and so many techniques have been developed, and every now and then, every day, you find innumerable books coming into bazaar showing different ways of following meditation and so on. But you must be aware that every path of life is beset with difficulties. Every path has some hurdles on the way. No one can achieve anything great in any field without overcoming obstacles. Now these obstacles or hurdles on the spiritual path have been classified into three groups. The first group is called Adhidaivika. That is an unfavorable environment or unsatisfactory job, unexpected calamities, psychic disturbances, some troubles originating from unknown causes. All these come under Adidaivika. The second group is called Adibhautika. That is, the difficulties are created by other people. They come under Adibhautika. The third one is called Adhyatmika. The obstacles created by oneself. Of these, the first two, Adidaivika and Adibhautika, they are more or less beyond the control of the aspirant. They are regarded as the results of his past karma. Only those internal obstacles which he himself creates by his wrong attitudes, wrong actions, they are within his control. And in spiritual life, these are the only ones that matter. Once these are overcome, external obstacles, they become powerless to impede spiritual progress. Now, the important subject which we have to tackle now is, what are those internal obstacles in our spiritual path? These obstacles are to be known clearly, so that you should not be scared of obstacles. On the other hand, you know them, so you know how to overcome them. That's the idea. So all these have been very clearly specified. Again, these internal troubles are classified into three groups. The first group is called Viparyaya. The second group is called Ashakti. The third group is called Tushti. The first group, Viparyaya, means false knowledge. Ashakti means incapacity. Tushti means satisfaction. The first group, the false knowledge, again it is of 5 types. False knowledge: ignorance, egoism, attraction, hatred, and clinging to life. Now these 5 obstacles which come under Viparyaya, they are again further subdivided into 62 types of false knowledge. 62 types. Of course, I am not going to the details of this one. If you want to study them, you can study in Sankhya Karika. All these are very clearly defined. I am just giving you an idea that we have to pass through all these hurdles on our spiritual path. The second one, Ashakti, incapacity. So the natural incapacities of one are said to be 28. Every spiritual aspirant must be aware of his limitations and also weaknesses, though he should not brood over them. physical strength doesn't necessarily mean mental strength. One may be very strong physically, he may have muscular strength, but he may be thoroughly weak mentally. He is not able to tolerate anything. He becomes so depressed for small things. That means his mind is too weak, whereas his body is too strong. And spiritual power is something quite different from mental power. In order to get a true spiritual experience, one needs spiritual power, and if one doesn't have it, one should first of all be aware of it, and then one should pray to God, who is the ocean of power, and try to find out the ways and means to develop spiritual power, which is possible by maintaining purity in life, purity in your thoughts, and purity in your actions, in your activities. The third type of abstractions in spiritual path is tushti, satisfaction. Under this category are included not gross sense pleasures which the average aspirant is supposed to have overcome, but subtle delights and consolations which prevent the aspirant from going forward. Suppose a person, while doing practices, he just gets some kind of experiences, not the final experience, but little joy of calmness, and sometimes he may see some divine forms of God. Immediately he should not jump to the conclusion, oh, I have got everything, nothing more for me to be attained anymore. That kind of satisfaction should not be there. You should not rest satisfied until you realize the highest truth. So, again, this satisfaction is also thoroughly studied, and the Sankhya Karika, the famous text on this matter, speaks of 9 types of satisfaction. One is the satisfaction produced by early spiritual progress or minor spiritual experiences. This is one of the commonest obstacles. Many aspirants struggle hard and practice meditation and japa with great earnestness for some years. But after attaining a certain degree of purity and calmness of mind, then their interest in spiritual practice cools down. There are others who remain contented with theoretical knowledge derived from books. They think that's all over. A second type of satisfaction may come from some external changes, like wearing ochre robes, keeping spiritual textbooks in the room, etc. Another kind of satisfaction comes from the false faith in time and fate. No doubt, spiritual progress takes time, and there is an element of uncertainty in getting spiritual experiences. But to think that everything will happen gradually in course of time, or that nothing happens without luck, is only an attitude of escape and a great obstacle to spiritual progress. And a warning is also given against the false satisfaction produced by misconceived and premature renunciation of work. External renunciation and austerity can create a sense of achievement and the feeling that nothing more is required in spiritual life. These lower satisfactions and fleeting fulfillments neutralize the soul's true aspiration for supreme bliss and highest fulfillment. Sri Ramakrishna illustrates this point through a simple parable. Merchants keep big heaps of grain in their warehouses. Around each heap they threw some puffed rice. The rats come there and they are so excited to see the puffed rice. The whole night they are busy in eating the puffed rice. But the main stock of grains are left untouched. These rats go satisfied by taking the puffed rice. Now Patanjali Maharshi in his Raja Yoga mentions 9 obstacles. All the obstacles which just now I talked to you are according to Sankhya Karika. Now I am trying to give you the list of obstacles according to Patanjali Maharshi. All these are very useful to know so that you are not shaken by the obstacles. On the other hand, you become strengthened. Every obstacle it tends to make you strong. You should not collapse. Become stronger and stronger. More strong, more strong. The more strong you become, more spiritual power will manifest in you. So, obstacles are the steps to strengthen your system. Your spiritual aspiration should be very firm. So, Patanjali Maharshi says, Vyadhi, Sthana, Samshaya, Pramada, Alasya, Avirati, Bhranti Darshana, Alabdha Bhumikatva, Anavasthitatva, Chitta Vikshepaha, Te Antarayaha. These are the 9 obstacles prescribed by Patanjali Maharshi. One is Vyadhi, disease. Second one is dullness. Third one is doubt. Fourth is carelessness. Fifth is laziness. Sixth is clinging to sensual pleasures. Seventh is the false perception. Eighth is failure to reach firm ground. Ninth one, slipping down from the ground gained. These are the obstructions. We may face them in our spiritual path. All these hurdles you have to pass through to have effective meditation. Well, you don't have to worry over them. As and when they come, face them properly. That's the way. So, the first obstacle, the disease, is caused by an imbalance in the flow of life energy. Dullness, it is lack of fervor or unwillingness to intensify meditation. Just I do every day 5 minutes, that's enough. I have done. You're not giving thoughts to make it more effective. You're not able to spend more time in spiritual practices. This may be caused by the presence of conflicts in the depths of the mind or by the lack of proper discrimination Probably you may not take meditative life seriously. Anyway, dullness, that is one of the obstacles. Then doubt, samshaya. Samshaya is of two types. One is an absence of faith in the eternal varieties of religion, or an attitude of suspicion towards everything. Referring to such people, Lord Krishna says in the Gita, Ajñascha shraddhadanascha samshayatma vinashyati nayam lokosti naparo nasukam samshayatmanaha. The man who is ignorant, devoid of faith, and always doubting, what will happen to him? He ruins himself. For the doubting soul, there is neither this world nor the world beyond. There is no happiness for such a person. The second type of doubt is questioning attitude that is characteristic of an inquiring mind. It is based on faith in certain fundamental truths. Spiritual life is a quest, a seeking, and without questioning and inquiry, one is likely to follow the wrong path. Regarding this second type of doubt about meditative life, Swami Vivekananda says, doubts will arise in the mind about the truth of the science, however strong one's intellectual convictions may be, until certain peculiar psychic experience come, as hearing or seeing it at a distance, etc. The fourth one is pramada, that is carelessness. Carelessness is of different types. Carelessness in regarding the senses, carelessness in reading, carelessness in talking, carelessness in choosing one's association, company. All these are to be taken notice. Most of the impurities are acquired through the carelessness. Carelessness about regularity of meditation leads to the accumulation of dust on the spiritual feet. As Saint Francis of Assisi used to say, to an advanced spiritual aspirant, carelessness means forgetfulness of one's true self, to remain without self-awareness. A true spiritual seeker constantly remains alert. There's a beautiful verse in the Sanskrit which says, Sampado naiva sampado, vipado naiva vipadaha, vipad vismaranam vishnoho sampan narayana smritihi. Prosperity is not prosperity. Calamity is not calamity. The real calamity is to forget God. The real wealth is remembrance of God. That's the meaning of this Sanskrit verse. God alone is our true wealth, and to forget Him is our greatest misfortune. The fifth obstacle is alasya, lethargy. It means heaviness or inertia of the body and mind. That means the preponderance of tamas caused by too much sleep or eating too much. This obstacle may come, so that you will not be able to continue your meditation properly. That's why we always prescribe light food in order to feel comfortable in meditation. Next is avirati. That is, mind runs after the sensual pleasures. One may give up sense objects externally, but internally his will may be still attached to them. Detachment of will, giving up all sankalpas is necessary in order to get absorbed in meditation. The seventh one is called Bhranti Darshan, that is false perception. It means taking a thing for what it is not. Understanding the thing wrongly. It is generally due to lack of intelligence and discrimination. The next one is a state that aspirant seems to make no progress and dead wall appears to be facing him. This failure to obtain a firm footing can cause distraction and disturb the perfect equanimity of the mind. Unless he has developed inexhaustible patience and capacity for the self-surrender, it's not possible to hold on to his spiritual aspiration. The last obstacle is slipping down from the ground gained. The mind has reached a high stage through devotional practices and maintaining strict discipline. But after some time, his effort must be continued more vigorously. Sometimes inherent fickleness of the mind may be the cause of downfall from the stage. This unsteadiness of the mind must be set right by special treatment. So when he finds that his path of progress is obstructed, he may be overcome by dukkha, sorrow, by depression, and thirdly palpitation of the heart or shaking of limbs and irregular breathing. All these things may happen. So the root cause of all our troubles, the ultimate source of all obstacles, is said in one word: avidya, ignorance. It is because of ignorance that we don't see the light of Atman and realize our true nature. Ignorance separates the I, the ego, from the Atman, and it is this self-alienation, this self-exile, that is the root cause of all our troubles. The alienated ego identifies itself with the mind and the body and the world and its objects. This identification leads to the experience of pleasure and pain, and from experience are born the three main attitudes or reactions: love, hatred, fear, which leave their impressions or samskaras deep in the mind. These samskaras or the impressions determine your present and future thoughts and actions. What we have called obstacles are all produced by the samskaras. So how it is very important that you must have well established samskaras. That means you have to exert maximum effort to be well rooted in the good impressions. If we try to remove our obstacles one by one by destroying each samskara separately, it may take a very long time. And we may never succeed at all. Because by the time we have destroyed one samskar, we would have collected 10 more through ignorance. So what should we do? We should therefore try to destroy the root cause of all samskaras and abstractions. And the root cause is ignorance. It is ignorance that covers the Atman like a screen. When the screen is lifted even partially, the brilliant light of the Atman streams forth. When the soul realizes its real nature, it ceases to identify itself with the mind, the body and the external world, and all our misery comes to an end. This is the spiritual solution to the problems of life. So then, the fundamental problem of spiritual life is how to remove ignorance from the soul. Instead of thinking too much about their limitations and obstacles, if spiritual aspirants gave all their attention to the problem of ignorance, they would save so much time and energy. To know the difference between real knowledge, light of the Atman, and ignorance, and to value the true knowledge above everything else, this is the first lesson to be learned in spiritual life. Overcoming obstacles is a very important step in our spiritual path. Ignorance is the ultimate source of all obstacles. The sole purpose of meditation is to remove that ignorance, to lift the curtain covering the Atman. However, this can't be accomplished in a day. It needs persistent struggle for months and months, years and years. And in this struggle, no quality of mind is more necessary than an unshakable faith, Shraddha. By faith is meant not a mere belief, but a temper of the will. Faith is the orientation of the will towards the ultimate goal. Let the body, let the senses, emotions, desires, reason, and the mind itself move in any way they like, but as long as the will is firmly directed towards the goal, the aspirant will move forward in spite of all obstacles. To keep the will resolutely fixed forever towards an unknown reality is not possible unless it is enlightened and guided by Shraddha, faith. The creation of such an enlightened, goal-oriented will is the first step in overcoming obstacles. This is what Patanjali means when he says, Tat pratishedartham ekatattva, Tat pratishedartham ekatattva bhyasaha. In order to overcome obstacles, one should practice one-pointedness. Once the will is turned inward towards its source, the Atman, the rest is all in the hands of the Divine. Human effort can go only so far. Beyond that, everything will be taken care of according to the laws of spiritual world. The purpose of prayer, the purpose of worship is to detach the will from desires and turn it Godward. The purpose of meditation is to fix the will at the door of the inner chamber. This chamber is the heart or buddhi, where shines the light of Atman. The door to it remains closed in most people. Meditation is only a continuous knocking at this door, but it is the divine who opens the door. This is the meaning of revelation. True spiritual experience is a revelation. It is not something created by human effort, but something new and spontaneous. It is the unseen hand of the divine that lifts the curtain covering the soul. This is what Lord Krishna means when he says that to those who worship him constantly with love, he gives them buddhi yoga. Tesham sarada yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Lord Krishna explains this term out of mere compassion for them. I, dwelling in their self, destroy the darkness of ignorance by the luminous lamp of knowledge. Again in another verse he says, Tesham eva anukampartham aham ajnanajam tamaha nashiyami atmabhavasto jnanadipena bhasvata. So, the Lord, out of his infinite compassion, lifts the curtain, and then you will be able to realize the truth. By removing ignorance, which is the primary cause of all obstacles, divine grace provides the best means of overcoming obstacles. For those who are unable to turn their minds constantly towards God, those who are unable to establish a direct contact with the divine, the only way is to seek the company of the holy, who act as channels of grace. Like an experienced traveler, a spiritually advanced person knows a great deal about the unseen world of the spirit. A little guidance from such a person gives the aspirant the understanding and progress which it will otherwise take years to attain by trial and error. So, it's always essential that one should have a spiritual master who can guide him in the spiritual path so that it becomes easier. Instead of doing all by yourself, if you take the help of a person who is already advanced in the spiritual path, it becomes much easier. Then you will be able to see the glory of your own Atman. So that is the way of meditation. The culmination of meditation is the revelation of the truth. Once you are having that experience of the highest reality, then you are at perfect peace. Meaning, you are in perpetual joy. With these words, I conclude my talk. Thank you. We have children camp from August 3rd to August 10th. Regarding the details of the children camp, you can inquire with Swami Chidananda. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. May the Divine Lord protect us. May He nourish us. May we work in harmony with great vigor. May our study be illuminating and fruitful. May we not hate each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.